Board of Trustees of Crystal City Independent School District will meet in special session at 6 p.m. Monday, February 1st, 2021, in the Administration Building Boardroom, 613 West Zavala Street, Crystal City, Texas, 78839. Call meeting to order. Time is?
6 o'clock.
6?
6 even.
Roll call on establishment of a quorum. Ms. Carlos?
Mr. Eric Garcia.
Here.
Mr. Reyes Espinosa.
Here.
Mr. Cruz Mata.
Here.
Mr. Victor Bonilla III.
Present.
Mrs. Nora Flores Guerrero.
Present.
Mrs. Melissa Marquez Guerrero.
Present.
Mrs. Peggy Young.
Present.
Number 3, moment of reflection. Number 4, audience to patrons for agenda items.
I don't believe anybody came in.
Yeah, there's nobody.
There was no deal.
Okay. All right, board. Please be advised that instead of going into closed session to conduct the superintendent's evaluation as normally done, the board will evaluate the superintendent in open session as requested by Mr. Churchill's legal counsel. At this time, I would like for the record to be clear that the superintendent has no objection that the board conduct his evaluation in open session and therefore waives any confidentiality of his evaluation as provided in Texas Education Code 21.355. Is this correct, Mr. Churchill?
That is correct, sir. I've asked for it to be in open session.
Given that Mr. Churchill has confirmed that he would like an open session discussion of his evaluation, we will move on to conducting his evaluation. Every board member has been provided a copy of the board-approved instrument, which was approved many months ago. However, given several issues, the board has never conducted an evaluation of the superintendent in spite of Mr. Churchill serving as the superintendent since June 2019, approximately 20 months ago. Every school employee has been evaluated more frequently than our superintendent. And for the record, Mr. Churchill has never placed an item on the agenda to request his own evaluation. Instead, Mr. Churchill hired an attorney, Nick Maddox, with a law firm of O'Hanlon, Demerith, and Castillo. On behalf of Mr. Churchill, Mr. Maddox sent a letter at 6:55 p.m. on Friday, January 29, 2020, to the district's legal counsel, attempting to call off Mr. Churchill's evaluation. For the record, Mr. Churchill never discussed with me that he had any issue with the evaluation instrument or for the board to evaluate him. Our legal counsel has responded to Mr. Churchill, which said response has been provided to all board members. Every district employee can register their complaints via the district's grievance policy simply because Mr. Churchill has hired an attorney, does not give any better rights than our hardworking employees who all go through the district's grievance policy to file a complaint. If Mr. Churchill believes it is in the best interest to litigate against the school district and or file a complaint, then he can do so via the appropriate channels. However, the board today will move forward and conduct the superintendent's evaluation as it is legally required to do so. If any board member wishes not to participate in evaluating the superintendent, they can excuse themselves and abstain. So let's move on to the evaluation instrument, which you have in front of you, that I sent to every board member with instructions on January 13, 2020. As every board member knows, the evaluation instrument has 3 parts. The first part is the student performance domain, which the superintendent should have legally provided to us, but he has not. It is unfortunate that the superintendent has not provided to the school board, but he is legally required to provide to us. As such, I will be calling for a special called meeting at a later date to take action against the superintendent for his insubordinate conduct. The record will be clear that the only reason the board could not take the student performance domain into consideration is due to the superintendent's failure and refusal to provide such instruments to the board. In regards to the second part of the superintendent's evaluation, the evaluation instrument provides as follows. Part 2, key performance indicators are developed in alignment with your district goals. The superintendent develops superintendent performance targets, which are reviewed by the board. The job targets should be SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound. Again, the school board has not received any superintendent performance targets to date. As such, this will not form part of the evaluation process. The board will have to take action at a later date in regards to the superintendent's failure to provide the district goals for consideration as he was required to do so. The third section is the assessment of ongoing responsibilities. All board members should have rated each domain on the provided scale: E for exceptional, P for proficient, N needs improvement. Each board member could have also added comments to each rating. The instrument does mandate that any ratings of need improvement must be accompanied by a comment indicating the nature of the deficiency or a statement of what the board expects to see in performance that was not evident. At this time, I'd like for each board member to furnish me orally with their individual ratings and comments so that we can place them in one document and furnish those results to the superintendent as required by board policy. So the first domain is going to be educational leadership, instrument management. At this time, we'll start off with Mr. Bonilla.
You want me to say it orally?
In the area, okay, yeah, sir, I'll call. In the area of instructional management, sir?
Rating
Yes, what is your rating?
P, proficient. Is that correct? Is that the proper use of the word?
Yes.
Say the right word? But
Okay.
it's still P.
Okay. Would you like to add any comments?
No, proficient.
All right. Mr. Cruz, what is your rating?
I have not been here long enough to make a fair assessment. I just started in November, so it'd be not a fair assessment since I just started and I barely have a couple of months, so I'm just gonna.
Just abstain?
Yes, sir. Just,
You're going to abstain through the whole thing?
yeah.
Okay. Mr. Espinosa, what is your rating, sir, for instructional management?
Proficient, P.
Any comments, sir, you'd like to request?
Not at this time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Young, what is your rating?
P, proficient.
Any comments you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
We looked at benchmarks before COVID and they were very good. They were showing growth. We saw benchmarks the other night. We're still showing growth. The superintendent has a DCSI. He has help at Zavala, TR, BJ. He's got help at the high school, junior high, and I believe he's utilizing them. Apparently, the scores are showing that he's utilizing them, and things are happening.
Thank you. Ms. Guerrero Nora, what is your rating, ma'am?
N, needs improvement.
Okay, your comments, ma'am?
Yeah, I just want to add that I understand that COVID hit us, you know, and things appear to slow down or stayed still. I feel that Mr. Churchill could have been more engaged with our staff, being a leader. I feel that there was supposed to be more work, more planning, more brainstorming, you know, just leading the way, period. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we have Ms. Melissa Guerrero. We will do some accommodation for Ms. Guerrero. She did email me her responses to me, and I have them here printed out. Okay, so Ms. Guerrero has rated Mr. Churchill an N, and her comments: during the shutdown, educational services were poorly provided due to poorly designed packets. No feedback was given to students or parents. I fear the learning gaps we already had will be much greater now. Also, student achievement was rarely discussed at board meetings. And my rating also is an N. So throughout my tenure as board secretary, we hardly ever spoke on student performance or achievement. At governing training, I was told 50% of the meeting has to be student performance and achievement. All right, another one is a concern with CNI was brought up on previous board meetings in which principals expressed their concerns for a need of assistance from the CNI. Progress monitoring, no data. How is the district analyzing students' growth and areas of need? At last week's board meeting, you nor your CNI director could speak to the TEKs that were taught and no taught. You were not able to provide specifics on what TEKs needed further attention. No RTI data has been represented. We are not aware of how many students are in Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. We do not know how many students need intervention. No data on the progress of our special groups, such as special ed, GT, ESL, 504, AEC. Poor planning of the school calendar delayed pacing calendars and instruction. Poor planning on the device purchase delayed our school start, which has led to less instruction to our students. Lack of a plan of action to target instructional gaps created by school closure has impacted our data. How do we strive for student achievement when no one is looking at the numbers? How many times have you met with our special education director to discuss student progress? How many times have you met with our program compliance director to discuss our EL students' progress? How many times have you met with our GT coordinator and 504 coordinator to discuss our students' progress? We will be held accountable for our data. We will have performance reporting on student achievement, CCMR, TELPAS, 2019 versus 2021, and graduation rate. At this time, we're moving on to the next section of the evaluation, student services management. Mr. Bonilla, how do you rate him, sir?
P, proficient. No comments.
No comments? Thank you, sir. Mr. Cruz, you're abstaining? Mr. Espinosa?
P, proficient.
No comments, sir?
No.
Ms. Young?
P, proficient.
No comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think that we've done a good job in allocating money for trainings. During COVID, they didn't have to stop. You know, there's Zoom, if I could have gone, if I went to it during COVID for what I need my hours, I know that the teachers got it. I think he's on target.
Ms. Nora Guerrero, what is your rating, ma'am?
N needs improvement. And I'll add that, again, we have a student services director, but I feel that Mr. Churchill needs to be more involved and present with the student services management. I feel that maybe he needs to learn more about what this entails to be better providers for these student services, okay? We can't just avoid this and depend on our teachers and other administrators and principals, you know, for them to be on their own. It's not right.
Thank you, ma'am. And again, accommodations for Melissa Guerrero. Her rating is also an N. Comments is students continue to struggle with technology even after students finally receive their devices. Wi-Fi buses may not be successful because students are still struggling to stay online. Attendance is a huge concern at all campuses. That was from Ms. Guerrero. My rating is an N. My comments is no data or plan of action pertaining to counseling services have been provided, such as suicide intervention plan. No data or plan of action pertaining to student discipline response has been provided. Several concerns were brought up in pre-COVID. Lack of a timely COVID safety response plan, which was presented in December 2020. Please note the COVID pandemic has been an issue since March. At the end of the day, superintendent is responsible for the district. Moving on to the next section. Staff development and professional growth. Mr. Bonilla, how do you rate him?
I gave him an E.
E?
Yes.
No comments, sir?
Other than that he has really beaten the bushes, tried to get us all the teachers that we need. and through as many different programs as possible to get the most highly qualified teachers we can get.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Espinosa, how did you rate him, sir?
which one are we on?
Staff development and professional growth, sir.
Proficient,
Yes, it's still under the first subsection C.
proficient.
Proficient, thank you. Any comments, sir?
P,
No, I'm sorry, I'm asking for comments, you have?
No.
Okay, Ms. Young,
P. Proficient.
any comments, ma'am?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Nota Guerrero, how do you rate him?
N, needs improvement.
Okay, ma'am, go ahead.
And I just want to add that again, you know, this work is being done by others. You know, I see no effort really from Mr. Churchill to get to know all of our staff, not just part of our staff, because it takes a whole staff for CCISD to function. I feel that you dedicate your time to certain departments and groups of people. When you first got here, I remember talking to you about this, that it was important for you not to be forming any type of cliques and favoritism or anything like that. We have a lot of problems right now, complaints, grievances left and right, and all this falls back on you.
Thank you, ma'am. As for Miss Melissa Guerrero, her rating is an N. Her comments is, I am not aware of any staff development plan. I would like to see a list of our scheduled staff developments that are meaningful and appropriate to help meet the needs of our district. And my rating to Mr. Churchill was also an N. My comments is no data or plan of action of staff development has been provided, nor the outcome of the success for the staff development. We do not know how effective any staff development has been. No data on staff appraisal, lack of documentation on staff walkthroughs. Moving on to the next one. District management, facilities and operations management. Mr. Bonilla, how do you rate them?
P, proficient.
No comments, sir?
Not at this time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Espinosa?
P, no comments.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Young?
P, I would like to say that during COVID, Mr. Churchill made sure that food services ran smoothly, even when it was sidelined by multiple employees being out. He made sure that it was in the paper. He made sure that families knew where to go. When he got here, we had multiple issues with air conditioning, a lot of structural. He got that going. Thank God we had the money that he could use to take care of it. P, proficient.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Guerrero, your rating?
N, needs improvement.
Comments, ma'am?
Yes, and although you did spend a lot of time, you know, with the facilities management, aside from the air conditioning upgrades that we saw for the district and the bleachers at the junior high, I really didn't see anything else that, you know, was done. And although our district does need a lot of improvements for security purposes, fences, sidewalks, and nothing has come about with that. I do agree that our food service is on point, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. For Ms. Melissa Guerrero's rating, she gave him a P for proficient. Any comments, Ms. Guerrero?
No, not at this time, but I was glad to see the food program continue and things like that. And I'm not happy about the auditorium, but that's not his fault, so.
No, it's not. Thank you, ma'am. I also give Mr. Churchill a P for proficient. All right, moving on to the next one, fiscal management. Mr. Bonilla, how do you rate him?
I gave him an E. If I may comment.
Go ahead, sir.
I do need to state that, I'm sure all of you will agree that considering the situation that we have found ourselves, that our finances have been managed properly for the most part, and I think it needs to be recognized. We just recently approved another retention stipend to our employees, so that is a huge indication of how well our finances are considering the crisis that we're in.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Espinosa, how do you rate him, sir?
Physical management,
Yes, sir.
E, no comment.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Young?
I gave him an E.
No comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Our first rating answers this. We're superior. If the state has no problem, our auditor has no problem. He has money. Whenever y'all ask for it, he comes up with it. He's never said no to any stipends that we had to amend the budget for. E.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Nora Guerrero, how do you rate him?
N, needs improvement. I feel that we had a lot of outside interference at the last time that we prepared a budget. We're supposed to be able to handle it here internally. I am happy that we were able to come up with a stipend, but the stipends do not fix our real issues. Our last budget workshop could have produced so much more if the recent pay scale study that was completed in July would have been brought to the board, okay? We could have done a lot with it and appreciated the heart and soul of the district, our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Melissa Guerrero's rating is a N. Her comments is limited budget workshops. Board is not given the opportunity for appropriate planning and develop a good, sound budget. My rating is an N. Lack of communication with the current financial advisor may have formed a negative relationship. Did not provide details to the board on why it was considered contract termination. Lack of budget workshop participation. Board was not part of the process, no room for discussion, and not able to tie the budget to any need assessments or district priorities. Willing to spend money on investigations that could have been mitigated. Moving on to the next one. Human resources, Mr. Bonilla, how do you rate them?
P, proficient, no comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Espinosa?
Professional, no comments.
Ms. Young?
I gave him an E. When Mr. Churchill saw issues in HR, he took care of it. Again, when Mr. Churchill saw issues in HR, he called in Region 20. He offered support, he offered help. We've had multiple problems in there. We're still working on it. I applaud him for what he's done to keep our TRS, keep everybody well within the realm of the law, which is not easy.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Nora Guerrero, how do you rate them?
N, needs improvement.
Go ahead, ma'am.
And I'm just going to comment that one can only conclude that the relationship here is not going very well. We have two key figures from that department grievances against Mr. Churchill. So I feel that work needs to be done for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Melissa Guerrero, her rating is an N. Her comments is that there are no goes, no target dates set for job transitions. Cross-training has been lengthy because there are no transition target dates set. It is not cost-effective to continue to pay two staff members to perform one job. In at least one case, the cross-training has continued for years. Accountability for job performance appears to be lacking. Also, it is apparent that there is very little, if any, support provided to HR department since grievances have been filed by the HR staff. Furthermore, the district climate and culture conditions are poor. especially at central office. A hostile and toxic environment appear to be fueled by favoritism and preference of one department over another. My rating is an N. My comments is that there's no data or plan of action for annual goals have been provided. Communication only to select people on a need to know. Facebook published celebrations were brought up as concerns during the pandemic as at the start of the school year. Moving on to the next one. Board, community relations, board relations. Mr. Bonilla, how do you rate them?
E, proficient, no comment.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Espinosa, how do you rate them?
E, proficient, no comment.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Young, how do you rate them?
I gave him an E. And all through this instrument, you'll see prior evaluation year, prior evaluation year. We didn't have a prior evaluation year. We're doing this early, we're doing it before we should, and we're doing it before we have our team of 8, which clearly speaks to the fact that we're not following board procedure. So in light of that, I gave him an E because he didn't have a prior evaluation year. And this board has been kept up to date on everything from personnel to TEA updates to grievances after grievance.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Nora Guerrero, how do you rate them?
P, proficient.
Any comments, ma'am?
Yeah, although we are kept informed, you know, I feel that in a few occasions, some of the information that I asked for wasn't what I asked for. But everything, I do agree that is given to me in a timely manner. Regardless, you know, what happened, it is our duty to rate and evaluate the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melissa Guerrero, she rated him with an N. Her comments are, in regards to board relations, the superintendent has created a climate of distrust. He has hired attorneys to represent him against the board and the district itself in even the most trivial matters. My rating is an N. My comments is, in the past, board requests have been submitted untimely, even a month late or never. That's what I've experienced. The board was not notified of the TASB pay scale draft in a timely manner. This hindered our possibility of becoming more competitive in recruiting staff. Recently, board members have received random text messages of audio recordings out of our own district staff during a possible meeting, out of our own district, during a possible district staff during a possible meeting. DH Local clearly articulates that meetings shall not be recorded without the consent of others. This is clearly creating a climate of distrust and hostile work environment due to the fact that we do not know how many other conversations have been recorded without people's consent and whether or not student information was discussed. Also, a previous grievance against the board created a negative report that was filed by the superintendent. Moving on to the next one, community relations. Mr. Bonilla, how do you rate him, sir?
E, proficient.
Comments, sir?
I'd just like to say that he did start it in the right direction at the beginning. It's just, but because of the issue with COVID, he was not able to implement more in depth. One of his projects out there were pretty.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Espinosa, how do you rate him, sir?
E, no comments.
E. Sir? Ms. Young, how do you rate him?
I give him an E. Mr. Churchill is very involved with the community. He goes to all events. His door is open for community. He's been very involved with the county, the city during COVID. It's important that parents have access to him. As far as I know, they do. He puts things on the website, our local paper, and he picks up the phone and he texts us whenever we need it.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Nora Guerrero, how do you rate him?
N, needs improvement.
Comments, ma'am?
And I go back to when he first got here, I do agree that he does have an open door. Going to events is not getting to know our whole community. Before COVID, you missed very key opportunities to get to know our community. We had a very successful back-to-school event where school materials were given to students. A lot of people were involved, and you did not attend. Then, at another event, Templo Emmanuel held a community pep rally. Again, a lot of people, students and parents attended, and you did not attend. And to me, these were big opportunities to really get to know our students and the families that make up CCISD.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Melissa Guerrero, her rating is an N. Her comments is proposed technology training for district parents did not occur. District community and parental involvement benefits are greatly diminished because the district no longer hosts the annual health fair nor the annual parent conference. Both events were very successful in the past.
Mr. Garcia,
Sir.
I didn't comment on anything, but I kind of have an overall comment on, but still do the whole evaluation.
Mr.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me finish off my stuff.
I thought you were,
So technically, my rating is an N. My comment is Facebook public celebration were brought up to concern during the pandemic at the start of the school year. And I think from that led to a couple of staff members having to be quarantined from that event that occurred. And I haven't seen the superintendent. I don't think he's worked to enhance or develop systems to bring more outreach programs for our students. The coordination that is going on because we have employees that have been working with these programs for years, and nothing new has been brought to the district. Thank you to the board for providing your ratings and comments. I will type up. Yes, sir, we're gonna get to that. I will type up all our comments and ratings in graph format and furnish them to the superintendent and to each of you within a week or perhaps sooner. However, at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's evaluation as conducted in open session at the request of the superintendent. Any motion on the floor?
when can I make my,
When we get to the comment section, sir. Go ahead, comment.
well, I mean, I didn't rate him individually on the comments, but I just want to say, when Mr. Churchill came, that we hired him, personally, I was against him. I thought, because of some things that I found out from him, I know you and other board members strongly supported Mr. Churchill in coming to Crystal City. Well, we got him here, and I voted that we bring him. When Mr. Churchill came here, we had two campuses that were RAF, Omar Rivera and Zavala, and we needed to do something. So when Mr. Churchill came here, he started putting teams together or looking at staff in the campuses and who could be moved around so that we could try to move these ratings up. He put together a very strong instructional team at Zavala, a principal and a vice principal instructional coach. Putting that team together, it helped the Tomás Rivera administrative team to work together, because that was not happening. Tomás Rivera could not meet with Zavala because the Zavala principal didn't want it. So he put those teams in place, bringing in even to Benito Juarez, I think one of the teachers over here. And as we progress, we did get scores from the teachers on benchmarking. Right before March, when we had this thing of COVID, when we got the Omar Rivera report and the Zavala report, at Zavala, we were almost beyond what we had gotten in state. We were there. So I think that's very important, I mean, that we consider, I mean, because he did work hard in putting teams together, and those teams were very effective. COVID came in March, and I mean, it kind of stopped everything, and I mean, we're not the only ones that were having problems with that. We didn't get computers or this or that. I mean, look at the news and you'll find out that, I mean, everybody is having problems. There's a lot of superintendents right now meeting with the governor and TA to try to postpone the START test for this year because they know that they're going to be failing. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to say. I know you also mentioned something that about a month ago or whatever, and I don't know, I mean, who thought of this, that we need a CNI position. Honestly, I don't think we need one right now. There's a possibility that the compliance person in that position, if TA decides to drop all the schools that are F, and this person will no longer have to do any percentages TA. Well, this person, we're gonna have to find a position for her, which could be moving into CNI. But at this point, I mean, I don't think, I mean, back then when we decided that we're not gonna do CNI, the principals said that they would prefer to have instructional coaches in every campus. And now we have one at high school, we have one in Fly, we have one in Benito Juarez. Because I mean, they have them all the time and they serve as instructional coaches, meeting sometimes with Ms. Carranza. So I don't think that position, the only thing that I would hope, I mean, that we can fix, I mean, as a board, is this problem that we have here at Central Office of a negative environment. I mean, that's a concern to me. I mean, but I think he's done a good job. I mean, and as I look at other superintendents, I mean, they're struggling with the COVID, making decisions here, there, and everything. I mean, I know, I mean, somebody mentioned, well, we haven't done this and this and that. I mean, when Mr. Churchill came, the bleachers, because I brought it up at Fly Junior High, I mean, for 3 years, it was a mess. I mean, they were broken. I mean, it was a pity. I mean, the people coming from other school districts to visit us. And I found out because, I mean, my grandson started going to those games and people approached me. There was also a problem with Fly ACs. And I think, I don't know which of the other campus. I met with the Fly Junior High principal at that time, the one that's right now there, and I asked him, I mean, what's this wrong with not having proper seating for the kids? He told me, sir, we have been asking for this for the last 2-3 years, the past principal and myself, but they tell us, there's no money. I met with him and I said, sir, you need to go over there, you need to go check. And he did go and he posted, and we have brand new gyms. The same thing with the air units. I mean, what we're doing in the past with air units, a unit would break. They were looking for parts all over the United States. Now, I mean, the kids have that. And so, I mean, he's done good things that district, me as a school board member, or priorities, I mean, that were important for the kids and teachers that have been asking for that at that time. So, I mean, I know a lot of you gave him needs improvement. Well, he might some improvement. Let me ask you, and I don't know if it's appropriate, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you have any training in evaluating superintendents?
Have I had trainings in evaluating superintendents? Just whatever was provided at the governance training in one of the sessions.
Just one?
Well, that was up in,
Okay, and I remember Mr. Mata for abstaining from doing the evaluation because as he explained, I just came here and I can go. You came in 2 years ago in November, in January, we evaluated the ex-superintendent, and you were straight ones without really having any understanding of what's happening. You think I was fair?
please understand, sir, that I rated her from the time I got there to the time
About a month. All once. I mean,
it's, at least I get.
I think you need to go to training for how to evaluate really, what we've been here in the district. That's all the comments I want to.
Question when was your last training?
Huh?
When was your last training?
For 8 years, I've been going through,
When was your last training?
I do a couple that come out in T8, but Mr. Mata, I've been trained on evaluations because I have to evaluate teachers. And then, for the 8 years that I've been in the board, I continue going to the difference. Every year, except for now the COVID, we would have a training in about October, one in about maybe March.
Well, we're required to have 5 hours.
The governments where we would go and we would choose the training that we felt we were weak in. So I had a lot of them.
I have a comment. When a real evaluation's done, a real one, that has merit, and we're working together with him to bring this district up, we should be looking at our Texas Academic Performance Report. We have it. We should be looking at our special ed report. We have it. We should be looking at everything that he sees every day that these teachers are teaching. And we brought nothing to this table because you wanted it done tonight. In a real world,
First of all,
we would have had all these reports and we would have looked at them like this tells us to.
Read the bottom of that first page, ma'am. Why don't you read it right now to all of us? Read the bottom of that first page you're looking at.
We haven't written these goals.
Listen, read it. What does it say?
Key performance indicators are developed in alignment with your district goals. We have none. The superintendent develops performance targets, which are reviewed by the board. When did he have a chance? He's too busy.
Why don't you ask
him? Investigations. The board.
Okay, so with all, Ms. Young, with all these grievances, Ms. Young, why don't you ask Mr. Churchill, how come he hasn't mitigated any of these grievances instead of allowing them to come to us?
The man can't do an 8-hour day without constant barrage onslaught of stupid requests. And we have worked on nothing. We should have been taking last year's scores, sitting at the table tonight, and we should have been talking about them and where we want to see ourselves. But we don't. We're too busy.
It's funny that your evaluation was this, because 3 months ago, you were completely different.
That was before.
Listen,
that was
3 months ago. Now, hold on, let me speak now. 3 months ago, okay, you were mad because after spring break to the end of the year, there was one lousy packet and you literally bent it out to me.
I made that.
You were disappointed.
I told him that. I told him
that nothing was done.
I told him that. I told him that.
And then what did you tell me?
I told him
You
that.
said, you know what, Mr. Garcia, I hate to say this, but we might end up falling in hour with all the campuses. And then you go on to say, we might have to end up consolidating with La Pryor ISD.
Well, there's nothing to say that we're not going to end up
you think that
there's nothing to say that we're not going to end up by.
But really, with La Pryor consolidation? You mentioned that to me. You said that to me, right?
It happens every day.
Yeah, well, that's all you think of the district. Go ahead, Ms. Guerrero.
Mr. Garcia, that, I think it's irrelevant what they're saying. As board members, we have eyes, ears, and it is our responsibility, whether it is a few things that we bring to his attention. That's the only way he's gonna grow and get better. It's not to bash him or anything. I mean, we were all dealt cards and whatever, we just have to deal with it. We just have to deal with it. So I mean, I've been wanting to evaluate him for a very long time. Too bad we never got to do our team of 8, but that doesn't mean that we can't bring things to his attention.
And we will. Team of 8 is scheduled for the end of the month.
Ms. Guerrero, let me ask you this question. So when you were the president, close to October, before election time, we set up a team of 8. Only 3 of us showed up for the meeting. It seems like the rest had boycotted the meeting. We had Edvara and those people ready, but we didn't have a quorum.
Really?
So we tried.
That's what
We haven't had it for 3 years.
You're wrong.
I was-
And I don't know, I mean, I don't know where you get that, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, things happen in my personal life, and I couldn't be here, and I don't think I need to explain to anybody. It was an absence.
Well,
That's it.
maybe it was for everybody, I mean, but we just need one more board member to show up, to have it.
I think we attempted several times and it never happened. But that, I mean, that doesn't mean that we cannot bring things to the table to be addressed. Because we have issues, and we all know that. We cannot hide from that. We cannot.
Hold on, Mr.
I
Vaca.
have a comment. You mentioned earlier that there wasn't a prior evaluation, but we need one, okay? It's mentioned here, it's been 20 months. It's not to say that, you know, it's a bad thing. Now we know where he needs to improve or where he needs help. I mean,
They're
next
necessary.
evaluation, I mean, we need one in order to gauge on what we have to look at, so.
Besides, we did not do 2 parts of it. We didn't. But we will have to come back eventually in the future to.
I think he's gonna do very well tonight. I think on a scale of 1 to 10, he's gonna end up about a 7 or a 6, and I think that's pretty good for COVID and what the man has had to put up with.
Mr. Cruz, and I agree with you 100%, but this summative, it's like we were evaluating him for the end of the year. That's we have what's called a formative.
That should have
See
been
it?
done.
And this is when we discuss all these things that we want, and then we give him time to go back and make sure that on that formative evaluation, he was able to come back and tell us, okay, I corrected this. But a summative, it's like it's evaluation for the end of the school year.
Mr. Mata, and it's not like they mentioned earlier, he has an open door. We, you know, we have every right to call him with all of these concerns for him to be able to improve them, and we have, and they're still happening. So that is our job, to let him know, you know, what we hear out there, what we see. I mean, it's okay to bring it up, and 20 months is a long time, you know, that he's been here, and we're still having issues.
Exactly.
All right. Mr. Bonilla, any comments?
No, I think enough has been said.
Ms. Melissa Guerrero, any comments, ma'am, from you?
No, thank you.
Say something, sir.
No, sir. At this time, any motions to accept the current evaluation of the superintendent?
And before we motion, can you give us a tally of what it came out?
This is based on letters, sir. I don't know the numbers, so this is going to go to Mr. Cruz.
And how many E's, how many, I mean, because I'm not gonna accept an evaluation.
Well, let's see.
I mean, get some, well, I mean, just call him out and.
Yeah, that's fine.
Being that he's the
So
secretary.
overall,
Yep. That's the way we've done it in the past.
got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 E's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 20 P's. $21 N's.
That being said, Mr. Garcia, I go ahead and make a motion that we accept the evaluation of the superintendent.
I got a motion on the floor by Ms. Nora Guerrero. Any seconds?
I'm sorry, summative evaluation of the superintendent.
Thank you, ma'am. Any seconds?
Is he gonna be able to say anything before we vote on this?
My understanding, ma'am, that during the evaluation, Mr. Churchill could not provide any feedback.
I'll second.
Second by Melissa Guerrero. All in favor, please raise your hand. Against? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion passes.
What was the final?
4 for it, 2 against, 1 abstention.
When are you gonna give us the final rating? Because I think we,
It'll be before the end of the week, sir.
okay.
Thank you. The next agenda item is in closed session relates to my wife, so I will excuse myself from the proceedings and this building so that the board can conduct the grievance. I will turn over the rest of the meeting to Mr. Espinosa, who will handle the rest of the meeting. You guys have a good evening.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, sir.
Are we not getting a trying to select for our, third-party investigators, or why are we hearing,
Now, this is
Something different.
something, yeah.
It's a level 3.
No.
Give these to you, Eric?
Yes, ma'am, please. If you guys want to turn those in, I will gladly send all that to Mr. Cruz, and he will have,
Thank you.
Mr. President, I apologize for interrupting your meeting, sir. The superintendent requests the grievance to be held in open session.
Which one?
This one, the one that's coming up.
All grievances against the superintendent.
And is that agreeable with the person that is filing the grievance?
I'll let you consult with your own counsel, but Texas state law allows the superintendent the option if the grievance is filed against him.
Okay.
We'd love to expose this guy.
Can we get started and then we can, because
I think the public needs to know more about this guy. He's something else.
only for you since you.
I'll throw out that sidebar, put on pause until we actually start the grievance. We'll get his time.
Open session.
Your sidebar all the way.
Ahorita que comience mucho, I'll say the time. And then I'm more quiero se acabó, will be, again, open session.
Okay.
And then, recording action taken. How we vote, I mean, we'll.
Are we going into a different Zoom link?
You don't have to worry about that one, sir. You won't have to worry about it because
There's things that we can decide.
session.
Mr. Espinosa,
Coming from.
Mr. Espinosa,
Ma'am.
We're gonna be a record.
are we going into a different Zoom link?
I don't know. No. This is, what we can decide at the end of the.
Thank you, sir.
According to Mr. Fernandez, we are gonna remain in the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna, since, the superintendent requested that it be, in open session, I'm gonna read the procedures. And this is a board level appeal of, Sarah Garcia regarding Ms. Garcia's level 3 grievance. The level 3 grievance is coming before, the district trustees in accordance with the board policy DGBA local. The parties agreed to the consolidated, the level 1 and level 2 hearing. The grievance is levying a complaint against the district superintendent. Due to COVID pandemic, some trustees may appear video conferences. My name is Ray Espinosa, and then at this time, I mean, I'm gonna ask for the board members that are present here to state their name. And we'll start with Mr. Bonilla. Bonilla, for the record, can you state your name? And then state your name.
Mr. Espinosa, my name is Victor Bonilla III, I'm a board member.
Okay.
Cruz Mata, Board Member Secretary.
Ms. Young.
Peggy Young, board member.
Nora Flores Guerrero, board member.
Melissa.
Melissa Guerrero, board member.
Okay, so these are the board members that will be hearing the grievance. For the record, may the grievant and her representative please introduce themselves at this time.
Sarah Garcia.
And you represent.
And Tony Connors, and I have the honor of representing Sarah Garcia in her grievance against the superintendent.
Okay, thank you, sir. And for the record, may the district representatives please introduce themselves.
Edward Churchill.
Yes, sir. Nick Maddox,
Or Edward Churchill.
counsel on behalf.
Your name, sir? Mr. Churchill's representative?
Nick Maddox, legal counsel on behalf of Superintendent Churchill.
Okay. At the request of the grievance is taking place, well, it was changed from closed to open session. Additionally, this grievance presentation concerns personally indefinable information of the district personnel. According to this grievance presentation as well as the administrator's response will be open to the public as requested by the superintendent. To provide a record of the proceedings, an audio recording is being made for the board, district administrations, and the grievance representative have been provided with an approximately 132 pages recorded. The level 3 grievance is being conducted in accordance with DGBA local, the district policy government employee complaints. I will now instruct the parties on the procedure to be followed in the grievance appeal presentation as provided by DGBA local. The board will listen impartially to the presentation by both the grievant and the district representative. The grievant shall present first, followed by the district representative. Following both presentations, the board will consult with its legal counsel and deliberate the grievance in open session. The rules for the level 3 grievance appeal presentation will be as follows. Only one person may speak at one time. The grievance participants shall conduct themselves with common courtesy and respect for the rights of the others. Number 3, the grievant and district representative will each be afforded 10 minutes, which is a reasonable time limited to making the presentations. However, additional time may be afforded at the request of the grievant and at my discretion. If additional time is allowed to the grievance, the district representative will be afforded an equal amount of time. The board members may not be questioned. At the conclusion of both the grievant and the district representative's presentation and questions from the board may give notice of its decisions orally or in writing at any time to and including the next regular scheduled board meeting. Are there any questions regarding the presentation? Mr. Connors?
Yes, I do have a question. As I read board policy DGBA local under the section dealing with level 3, I believe it's the second paragraph, it states that at level 3, they're limited to the issues and documents presented at level 2. The only documents we have are the documents in record, and the only response that we have is on page 10 of your record, which is the second page of the level 2 decision. The only discussion in responding to the grievance is in that paragraph. And I'm putting Mr. Churchill, counsel on notice, and the board that they're limited by your policy not to bring up things that were not in the level 2 decision. Mr. Churchill chose not to hear the grievance or respond. He shouldn't be able to come in this board meeting and now present information that was never presented before. That would be in violation of your board policy, DGBA local.
I think you have answered the question. I think you have answered a question. Do you have any response to or comments to make? What's his name?
No, what I'm telling you, what I'm asking, my question is, are you going to follow
Sir,
your board
I'm now
policy?
addressing myself too. Do you have any questions, concerns, sir?
Mr. Maddox.
That's my question and concern, Mr. Espinoza, that you as an ally of Mr. Churchill will not
Mr.
follow
Maddox,
your
do you have
board
any
policy.
comments or anything?
I do.
Sir?
I do. I steadfastly disagree with Mr. Connor's interpretation of your board policy. The board interprets its own policy pursuant to state law, and therefore can interpret that paragraph however they choose. I also have.
They cannot
Okay,
do
at this time,
so.
I'm just gonna, I know we can be here all night, hearing one attorney and then the other attorney. So at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and begin with the presentation. I will now ask the grievant to proceed with her presentation. The board counsel will be the timekeeper. You have 10 minutes. Can you keep the time? When it's about a minute before the time's up, Mr. Mata, just let me know so that we can let them know.
Let me get ready. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, sir. Mr. Connors?
Yes, I'd like to start by saying that this is not about us versus you. It's about using your board policy to resolve concerns that the board should address about Mr. Churchill as your superintendent. We filed this grievance with the superintendent since it involved his conduct. But again, he ducked his responsibility by outsourcing a grievance against him to a subordinate, Principal Cerna, who lacks authority. But this board clearly has the authority and the responsibility as a duly elected governing body to override and address this superintendent's misconduct. This misconduct started in November of 2020 when Mr. Churchill informed Ms. Garcia that someone filed a complaint with the Texas Education Agency about timekeeping practices that somehow involved her. Ms. Garcia responded by asking who and what exactly, and Mr. Churchill, rather than giving an honest question to an honest answer, avoided answering by saying the person filing the complaint with TEA wanted anonymity. So Ms. Garcia goes and checks the TEA websites and finds out they don't take anonymous complaints. So she asks him again, and he refuses to provide any information, much less a copy of the complaint. Because of his refusal and lack of transparency, Ms. Garcia filed this grievance making the following points. That one, despite all the trappings of later seeking an attorney general opinion to protect third-party complaints filed with TEA, there is no law prohibiting a superintendent from sharing citizen complaints filed with TEA with members of the administration of the district, including HR, especially if the complaint involves them. We're not dealing with highly confidential, legally protected information like grand jury information or limited information that is legally confidential as part of an ongoing criminal or CPS investigation. The superintendent has discretion to release, as is common with most districts. And I've come in here since 1996. I know some of your board members in different capacities, but the former superintendents, Ms. Allen, Dr. Espinoza, and Dr. Gonzalez, they would share information. How do I know? they'd share it with my clients, and my clients would be required to respond to it. The superintendents wanted to know what was their response so they can decide how to handle it. Because without the complaint, the subject of the complaint does not know the basic information of who, what, and how, as well as many times knowing who is making the complaint gives you information about the motive, context, and other valuable information. As the superintendent, this is the first time he's ever been a superintendent. He's never been a superintendent before. I know his district, I know his father, I know about this guy. He has a duty to get accurate information to defend district staff, make needed changes, and foster environment of transparency. Unfortunately, Mr. Churchill has a pattern of withholding information against other administrators to further his personal agenda at the expense of the administration. Even more troubling, Mr. Churchill is taking an adverse position to further his motive against my client because she is the wife of the board president who is trying to hold him accountable for his misconduct and his failure to be effective as a superintendent in this age of the pandemic. We have other examples. There's the case of Dante Delgado, which the superintendent had his personal attorney take a grievance against the board, threatening.
Sir, we're in open session.
No, you chose open, I speak freely.
Well, but I mean, you're still not supposed to
You
address
cannot control my speech. They
employees.
elected to be open, so I am going to say the names.
You could mention
outside the
former HR, I mean, you need to state names.
No, I'm not going to say, I'm going to say the name. I'm sorry.
Okay, your time's gonna run out, so
I
keep
have a
going.
right. I have a right. Dante
Okay, keep
Delgado.
going because you're gonna run out of time.
Let him
No,
run
because
his
you're
mouth.
interrupting me.
Go ahead,
Dante Delgado was an example.
go ahead.
He filed a grievance. Mr. Churchill filed a grievance after he filed a grievance threatening this board. Threatening
Oh my
this
God,
board.
we're not here to discuss that, man.
Not only was, stop, would you please let me present the grievance because you're interfering with me because you're talking. Please. That's Mrs. Young coming there.
Go ahead, sir.
Not Mr. Delgado. While he still had a grievance, the superintendent filed a grievance and didn't tell him about it and threatened the board that if they went with his grievance, that they would be in trouble. They hid that grievance to us until recently we obtained it through the Open Records Act and other ways. And then there's the case of Irma Martinez, when Mr. Churchill withheld information about a complaint against her, allegedly violating HIPAA and other privacy laws about confidential health issues when she was the interim superintendent. And he apparently had his lawyers send a demand letter again to the board threatening you. And you guys say it's proficient to threaten your board with legal action at least 3 times? Really? Transparency and fairness for all involved would be to share the information about the complaint. As it turns out, in the case of Irma Martinez, 2 of the witnesses bringing allegations who said they were at certain meetings weren't there. We still haven't been shown the details. And I have been working in school law since 1990 to 1987, 2 years as a law firm, and I've been represent 2 commissioners, school districts, and since 96. I represent a lot of superintendents over my years. This guy really takes the case. The dominant and common practice is to show the administrative team the TEA complaint and other complaints unless it's highly sensitive or legally confidential. This allows for the district to properly respond to complaints, including immediate corrective action. To withhold, as Mr. Churchill has done, is breeding unnecessary distrust, especially harmful with a small district with limited administrative staff that need to work as a team in this age of the pandemic. Also, unlike the previous superintendent and other similarly situated superintendents in smaller districts, Mr. Churchill, by docking the duties, is increasing the expense to the district in terms of attorney fees for third-party investigations. These are things that he should be handling rather than conducting these investigations where this district is not a very wealthy district. Money is important. Every dollar that goes to a school attorney is less money for the students. He had under his time, he's gone for a good part because of this unfortunate accident. He had Irma Martinez, Dante Delgado, the secretary, board member, and Ms. Garcia investigated by a third party. Ms. Garcia is being harmed by this lack of transparency by limiting her ability to defend herself and do her job. The superintendent's conduct is inconsistent with the code of ethics. In the level 2 decision on page 10, the superintendent did not respond in any way to this grievance other than in this paragraph, which he refers on paragraph number A on page 10 of your record, or page 2 of 3. It states that the district takes no position as to the withholding TA complaint. It merely refers to the Attorney General opinion and provides no.
Mr. Connor, do you have 1 minute? Mr.
No
Connors?
defense. Absolutely no.
Mr. Connors,
defense.
do you have 1 minute?
I understand that. I actually have more than that because you interfered, but that's okay. But they didn't present a single response other than it was provided. No document, no other thing. So when their lawyer comes in here and he starts smarking and he starts trying to bring in new information, I will be objecting and I will not stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now at this time, we're gonna have the representative from or Mr. Churchill, and the same amount of time, the 10 minutes will be allotted. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice President, members of the Board of Trustees, thank you for letting me present tonight. Mr. Connors can have no fear, because I will only use his complaint and his presentation tonight to make my presentation. Because once again, like last time in the grievances that he so referenced, I can keep my presentation to you probably under 5 minutes because it's always quite easy when the law is on your side. We have one employee, one complaint to TEA, and one grievance about that complaint and that employee. Everything else that he brought up, all this past history, starting with ancient Rome moving forward, it's irrelevant, completely irrelevant. And
I would
that.
object to that because that was
You have your time.
I would object to that because it wasn't in
You have
the
your time.
Can I have a ruling on
You have your time,
bringing
sir.
stuff that's not in the response?
Can Fernando shut him off?
You have your time. We're in open session.
They wanted it.
Continue, sir.
All right, thank you.
May I have a
So-
ruling on that,
No,
please?
sir. You had your 10 minutes.
No, I'm making an objection. He's bringing in
Well, just
information.
1 second. Continue, sir.
Yes, sir. So we have an employee who wants a copy of a complaint filed to TEA. I think that's well within the grievance presentation and well within their complaint. I think everyone agrees that's a fact. And there's a difference of opinion as to whether or not that should be released. So I'm here to tell you that the superintendent actually has no personal opinion whatsoever about releasing this
Object to
grievance.
that because that
No,
wasn't
sir.
was never provided in a response.
Go ahead, sir.
As Mr. Connor stated, as he opened the door to that evidence in his presentation.
But your
the
response
superintendent
was
doesn't care.
Mr. Connors, please,
response.
or we're gonna shut you down.
Shut him
I'm objecting to him bringing you information that's not in the
You cut
record.
him off.
Shut it off, Fernando.
You can't do that.
If you shut me off, you'll be violating my
Nobody has
client's
10
rights.
minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Tell him that he needs.
One more time, I'm gonna go ahead and.
Miss Young is interfering. Miss Young has been, she interfered throughout my whole presentation.
Mr. Connors, you had your
Do this
time.
all night, Mr. Connor?
God, you're not helping your client.
Go ahead, sir.
The last legal advice from the board's attorney, Mr. Juan Cruz, that my client, the superintendent, got was that this complaint needed to go to the Attorney General's opinion to determine whether or not it was public information and could be released. That's it. He's simply acting upon advice from your council board. He has no personal opinions whether or not this employee should have this complaint. And should the AG, the Attorney General, say that it's fit for release, I'm sure he'll hand deliver it to her tomorrow. He's not doing this out of personal vendetta. This is not his personal feelings about whether or not this employee should have it. This is legal advice from your counsel, who he is not one to violate. That would be a violation of his fiduciary duties to the district to violate a direct order from your legal counsel. So if the board wishes.
No, wait a minute. That has never been not presented.
Sir.
I objected. It's not in the record.
Sir, can you
show
cut
up
him
and bring
off?
up new stuff? You can't bring new stuff up. It's
He's
against.
interfering
I would
with the
allow
presentation of the other attorney.
I vote that we
You
don't.
said the word,
We're not-
in his opinion, you said the word, you opened that door to evidence. You know how this works.
I presented that at the grievance. At level 2, I presented the same information at level 2 that I did at level 3. You weren't there. You have the transcript. You can read the
Sir,
transcript.
cut him off and we'll
Brought
bring
all
him
that
back
up.
when he's done. I'm in charge of the hearing and his interference, I already told him about 3 times. Cut him off when he's done with his presentation. We can bring him back, can ask questions or whatever, but let him finish. He's gonna run out of time with the interference. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. So if the board wishes to order the superintendent to release this complaint to the grievance tonight, he will do so. He's not trying to circumvent or go against the board or anyone else. He's simply trying to act on the counsel that the board has employed. Now, I would caution that if the board does that, it would be before the AG's opinion came down, and it would likely be in contravention of the board's own counsel, which is between you and your lawyer. But if that's the will of the board, he's happy to do it. Again, there's no animosity here. He's simply trying to keep what's private, private, and keep what's public, public. And I don't think there's any sin, grievance, or violation in that. That's simply his duties and obligations as a superintendent. So once again, if Juan Cruz or the board has received an attorney's general opinion saying it is clear to open to release, again, we will do so. We're not trying to sit on this for any more amount of time than we have to. Look how much time we have all wasted on this already. So board, in short, there's a document. It has third-party information in it. It has sensitive personnel information in it. It was formally filed to the Texas Education Agency. The superintendent had concerns about releasing it, sought your lawyer for legal guidance, who sent it off to the AG's opinion, and that's where we are. That's it. That we're in limbo. The moment we get the green light, we will turn that over. We're not trying to stop this process. If we get a red light, we won't turn it over. And Mr. Connors won't like that, but it's the law. So we have to do what we have to do. So that's the superintendent's entire position. I don't think there's anything egregious about that. I don't think I brought up anything crazy. And essentially, board, that's where we are. We are waiting for further guidance from state agency or from your legal counsel that we can act. And until then, the superintendent's going to do what he has to do, as unpleasant as that may be, including sitting right here in this grievance in protection of you and your district. I'll reserve the rest of my time for rebuttal.
Okay, we're gonna bring Mr. Connors back, and then if the board has any questions, I mean, for either or.
I would recommend, sir, if I may, that we have our attorney on the phone to clarify any particular procedural points, like the interjections that are happening, because we don't have the points of law to bring in to tell the attorneys, and I'm saying attorneys, not to interject when one is making a presentation. I would just recommend that.
Can you call him, or?
The only problem is that you all did not post it, Mr. Garcia, when we posted the agenda, did not post the calling of the attorney. So I don't know.
Okay, well, just wanted to point that out, that was it.
Okay. So now we're gonna bring Mr. Connors back. If the board has any questions, go ahead and.
Mr. Espinosa, does the agenda usually say that?
What?
I mean, he's an attorney. I think we can call him whenever we want. I don't think I've ever seen it on the agenda that we're gonna call him, Mr. Churchill.
Yeah, there's this.
Happy to wait. We're happy to wait for Mr. Cruz. I would encourage and welcome his guidance on this.
I don't care, because I'm just saying.
I agree with Mr. Bonilla. I think we should call him if we have any questions.
Well, call him, sir, I mean, and we'll just, because I think he was present during the level 2 hearing, so he can also give us what was recommended.
Can you send them the Zoom link?
Hello.
Hey, Mr. Cruz, this is Mr. Churchill. We are in the middle of our level 3 grievance. I'm going to turn the phone over to Mr. Espinosa, okay, sir?
Okay.
Mr. Cruz, how are you doing, sir?
Good.
We have just finished the presentation for the agreement, and also the presentation for the council representing the superintendent, but a couple of board members, and this, we are in open session at the request of the superintendent, but there might be some board members that want to ask you some questions based maybe on the level 2 hearing, or what would you?
You can go into closed session under 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, and the only ones that will be in there are the board members and myself. I have the, just tell Ms. Carlos to send me the link and I'll
Let
click
them
on
kick us
that.
out, and then you can call.
So, what's this, what?
You could just announce that at this time, we're gonna consult with legal counsel pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code.
I mean, is it okay with the rest of the board?
Well, I had a few questions. I had a few questions that I would like to ask.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna go to closed session, and what was the,
Pursuant to 551.071 of the Texas Government Code.
and we're gonna go based on, the code that our attorney,
551.071.
stated. So,
You need to state it, 551.
And then
551.7.
say the time.
okay, put it again,
1.071.
551.071
One of the Texas Government Code.
Texas Government Code. So at this time, I mean, we're going to, close session,
To consult with legal counsel regarding the grievance.
okay, to consult with, legal counsel versus the grievance, and the time is
Should give you the time for that, sir.
7:23.
7:23.
Which one?
Okay. Just tell Ms. Campos to send me the link and I'll click on that one.
Okay.
Okay? Thanks.
He wants the link to click on.
I emailed it to him, the second link.
She said she had emailed it to you,
The board.
Okay, I'll click on that one then.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.